Hi, welcome to Discovering History, your show. My name is Stephanie, and today's topic is going to be evolution of English during the early modern age. So, for better understand this contest, I pretend to go over some aspects with the aid of anthropologists, a professor, an historian, and finally an American specialist who are going to elucidate the essential and the main events of this age. Also, we are going to answer some questions that we think that are really important to be clarified. So, given that, allow me to introduce my colleague Lady, who is in the John Ryland Library. So, she will introduce those questions.
Hello people, yes, as my partner said today, I am in the library Johnny Ryla. This place is amazing. Okay, well, we refer to the years 15 and 17 as the early modern English period. Well, during this time, there began to be a standardization of printed language due to the arrival of the printing press in England in 1475. During this time, spelling and grammar became more fixed and writing text was much more accessible. Well, but to learn more about the history of the early modern English period and to begin to understand some of the key literary patterns of the time period, we are going to answer these questions. There are 5 questions. Well, what was the age of reason? How were the English people affected by that? Which ideas and creations were brought by the age of reason? What was the Victorian age? And finally, how was cultural life in modern British after the Victorian era? Well, for answer these 5 questions, I can call different characters. Well, the first one is Natalie. She's the historian, so I can call her. Okay, okay. I can call her. Okay, okay. Hello, Natalie. Yes. Well, my name is Lady Gutierrez. I am a journalist, so we have some questions about early modern English period, and I don't know if you can help us answer it. Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. First one. What was the age of reason?
Hi, lady. Thank you for calling me and consider me. Okay, the Age of Reason was an 18th century movement which followed hard after the mysticism, religion, and superstition of the Middle Age. The Age of Reason represented a genesis in the way man viewed himself, the pursuit of knowledge and the universe. In this time period, men's previously held concept of conduct and thought could now be challenged verbally and in written form. Fears of being labeled an heretic or being burned at the stake were done away with. This was the beginning of an open society where individuals were free to pursue individuals' happiness and liberty. Politically and socially, the imperial concepts of the medieval world were abandoned. The Age of Reason included the shorter time period described as the Age of Enlightenment. During this time, great change occurred in scientific thought and exploration. New ideas filled the horizon and man was eager to explore these ideas fully.
Okay, Natalie, thank you. Well, it's really interesting your knowledge about that topic. So, we have a second question for you. Well, how were the English people affected by that?
Thank you, lady. Okay, In the Modern English period, the beginning of which is conventionally placed at 1500, numerous new conditions began to play an important role. Conditions that previously either had not existed at all or were present in only a limited way, and they caused English to develop along somewhat different lines from those that had characterized its history in the Middle Age. Okay, the new factors were the printing press, the rapid spread of popular education, the increased communication and means of communication, the growth of specialized knowledge, and the emergence of various forms of self consciousness about language. So the role of English was given impetus by the Protestant Reformation, which placed a religious duty of literacy on all and provided a national test for the purpose the vernacular Bible and prayer book. This national role coincided with the standardization of written English and with the emergence during the 16th century of a prestigious form of pronunciation. So, involving class structures in society, notably the rise of a powerful London bourgeoisie, provide audiences for sophisticated vernacular tests, such as the dramas of Elizabeth and Jacobin England. And the prestigious of the vernacular was reinforced by the victories of the recent middle classes in mid 17th century civil war. Lady, I'm really hope that these answers could be help to you with your search. Thank you. So, for continue our program, we need to answer the other questions. And the next question is, which ideas and creation were brought by the Age of Reason? Okay, for answer this question, we call the Professor Lynn Hunt. Okay. Hi, Professor Lynn. How are you? Okay, we have one question for you. Can you please answer our question? Which ideas and creation were brought by the Age of Reason?
Hello. Fine, thank you. Yes, of course. Okay, well, the period of Queen Victoria's reign 1837-1901 and characterized by a class-based society, a growing number of people able to vote, a growing state and economy, and Britain's status as the most powerful empire in the world. Yes, during the Victorian age, Britain was a powerful nation with a rich culture. It had a stable government, a growing state, and an expanding franchise. It also controlled a large empire, and it was wealthy in part because of its degree of industrialization at its imperial holding, and it in spite of the fact that three-fourths or more of its population was working class. Yes, but late in the period, Britain began to decline as the global political and economic power related to other major powers, particularly the United States. But this decline was not acutely noticeable until after World War II.
Okay, we continue with the Professor Lynn Hunt. Professor Lynn Hunt, this question is for you. How was cultural life in modern British after the Victorian era?
Well, during the Victorian age, Britain was the world's most powerful nation. Though not always effortlessly, it was able to maintain a world order which rarely threatened Britain with their strategic interests. During the Victorian era, then the United Kingdom could plausibly be considered as the world's superpower. However, Germany and the United States had already begun to surpass its industrial capacity, and Germany's naval buildup would shortly present a powerful challenge to long-held British supremacy. On the home front, the nation was only beginning to get to grips with widespread poverty, while considerably more than half the adult population remained without a vote. That Victoria's supremacy by 1901 was only skin deep. Let's continue with the next question. Okay, this question is for the famous media specialist Annie Johnson. So, wait, I call her. Okay. Hello, Annie. How are you? Fine, thank you. Well, Annie, um, I have one question for you. Can you help us with answer it? Yes. Nice. Okay. What was the role of literature during Victorian age?
So, thank you, lady, for inviting me. Um, I'm really happy to answer this question because I love this era. So, I have studied a lot about the literature of this age. So, the literature of the Victorian age entered a new period after the Romantic Revival. So, the literature of this era was preceded by Romanticism and was followed by Modernism and Realism. So, hence, it can also be called a fusion of romantic and realistic style of writing. Thought the Victorian age produced two great poets. The first one is Alfred Lord Tennyson, and the second one is Robert Browning. The age is also remarkable for the excellence of its prose. Victorian novels tend to be idealized portraits of difficult life in which hard work, perseverance, love, and luck win out in the end. They were usually inclined towards being of improving nature with a central moral lesson at heart. While this formula was the basis for much of earlier Victorian fiction, the situation became more complex as the century progressed. Victorian poetry was also indifferent from the already stated style. Much of the work of the time is seen as a bridge between the Romantic era and the modernist poetry of the next century. Alfred Lord Tennyson held the poet laureateship for over 40 years. The husband and wife poetry team of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning conducted their love affair through verse and produced many tender and passionate poems. If one studies possibly all the great writers of this period, you will mark three general characteristics. Firstly, literature in the Victorian age tended to come face to face with the realism. This reflected more on practical problems and interests. It becomes a powerful instrument for human progress. Secondly, the Victorian literature seems to deviate from the strict principle of art for art's sake. and assert its moral purpose.
Okay, to continue with our program, a viewer has a question for the professor Lynn Hunt. And the question is the next one. Professor Lynn, from the past until now, what was brought by history and that has stayed as part of the English culture?
Okay, Stephanie. Yes, the answer for this question is really nice. Listen, okay. The British at home had to come to terms with an unforeseen legacy of their imperial past, the large inflow of migrants, mostly from South Asia. In the 21st century, all imperial links still survive, particularly those based on language and law. Well, which may assume growing importance in a globalized world. That's even the Commonwealth brides and better in the 1916 and 1917 had retained a surprising utility as a dense global network of informal connections, valued by its numerous small states. As the experience of the empire resets more deeply into Britain's own past, it has become the focus of more attention than even from British historians.
This is all for today. Thank you for watching. See you at our next show, Discovering History. Thank you.